The envelope landed on my desk with a soft thud that somehow felt louder than thunder. My boss Damien stood there smiling, my co-workers gathering around, and my husband Owen watching from across the crowded hotel ballroom as the process server walked away. In that moment, I realized that the man I'd spent months calling weak and pathetic had just destroyed my entire world with surgical precision. But let me start from the beginning, when I thought I was the one in control. 3 months earlier, I stood on the rooftop of our downtown tech startup, champagne glass in hand, watching the city lights twinkle below. The product launch had been a massive success, and I was riding high on adrenaline and accomplishment. As project manager, I'd worked 18-hour days for 6 months to make this happen. Legia, you absolute rock star. Damien Ruth, our charismatic CEO, appeared beside me with that $1 million smile that had graced 3 magazine covers this year. At 41, he had the kind of confidence that made rooms go quiet when he entered. "We couldn't have done this without you," he continued, his hand finding the small of my back. "This calls for a celebration." Before I could respond, he pulled me close and kissed me. Not a quick peck on the cheek, but a full, passionate kiss that lasted several seconds. The rooftop erupted in cheers and applause from our colleagues and investors. I should have pulled away. I should have been thinking about Owen, my husband of 8 years, who stood near the bar, looking like he'd been slapped. Instead, I found myself kissing back, caught up in the moment, the attention, the feeling of being seen as powerful and desirable. When we finally broke apart, Damien kept his arm around my waist. "To our brilliant project manager," he announced, raising his glass, "the woman who made tonight possible." More cheers, more applause. Someone was recording on their phone. I felt electric, alive in a way I hadn't in years. Owen appeared at my elbow, his face carefully neutral. "Ready to head home?" he asked quietly. "Eva's babysitter texted. She's asking when we'll be back." "Our 7-year-old daughter." "Right," reality crashed back in. "Just a few more minutes," I said, not moving from Damien's embrace. "This is my night, Owen. Let me enjoy it." I saw something flicker across his face before he nodded and walked away. Later, I'd realized that was the moment everything started to unravel. The video of the kiss went viral within hours. Boss goals, Joel, women in tech, Joel, power couple. My notifications were exploding with likes, shares, and comments. "Get it, girl. Living her best life. This is what success looks like." I reposted it on my own accounts with the caption, "When you work this hard, you celebrate this hard." No apologies, dar boss life. Owen said nothing about it during the ride home, nothing when we relieved the babysitter, nothing as we got ready for bed. His silence felt accusatory, judgmental. "You're being ridiculous," I finally said as I brushed my teeth. "It was just a celebration. Everyone was cheering." "Everyone except your husband," he replied quietly, not looking up from his book. "Oh, come on, don't be such a prude. It's 2024, Owen. Women can be successful and celebrated without their husbands getting all insecure about it." He closed his book and looked at me, then really looked at me. "Is that what you think this is? Insecurity? What else would you call it? I have one moment of professional triumph, and you're sulking like a teenager." Owen stood up, walked to his dresser, and began organizing papers that were already perfectly organized. It was something he did when he was upset. This methodical tidying that drove me crazy. "I'm happy about your success, Legia. I've always supported your career. But that wasn't professional triumph. That was something else entirely. You're being dramatic." "Am I?" He turned to face me. "How would you feel if I kissed my principal at a school event while you watched?" I rolled my eyes. "That's completely different. Damien and I have a working relationship. We're partners in this company's success. There's nothing inappropriate about celebrating together." "Partners," he repeated slowly. "Is that what you call it?" "Yes, that's what I call it. And if you can't handle me being successful and appreciated, Maybe that says more about you than it does about me. Owen went back to his papers, and I went to bed angry. When I woke up the next morning, he was already gone. No coffee made, no note, no goodbye kiss for the first time in our marriage. Just silence and the faint scent of his cologne lingering in the bathroom. I told myself he was being childish. I told myself he'd get over it. I told myself I'd done nothing wrong. I was wrong about everything. The next few weeks fell into an uncomfortable pattern. Owen would leave early for school, come home late, and spend his evenings grading papers or working on lesson plans. When I tried to talk to him, his responses were polite but distant, like I was a neighbor he barely knew. At work, things were different. The viral video had brought unexpected attention to our company. Tech blogs were calling Damien and me the dynamic duo of innovation. We were invited to podcasts, conferences, and networking events. Damien started including me in high-level strategy meetings that had previously been above my pay grade. "You're glowing," my best friend Marina said during our weekly lunch. "Success looks good on you." "Thanks. It feels good too." I showed her my phone, scrolling through the latest batch of LinkedIn messages and interview requests. I never realized how much I was limiting myself. "What do you mean?" "I've been playing small for years, Marina, putting Owen's comfort before my own ambition, worrying about what people think instead of going after what I want." Marina raised an eyebrow. "And what is it you want?" Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a text from Damien. "Dinner meeting with investors tonight. Need my secret weapon there." I smiled, typing back quickly. "Wouldn't miss it." "Who's that?" Marina asked. "Damien. We have another investor meeting tonight. You two seem to be spending a lot of time together lately." "We're building something incredible. The company's valuation has doubled since the product launch. Damien says I'm integral to our growth strategy." Marina looked thoughtful. "And Owen's okay with all these late nights?" I shrugged. "Owen's dealing with his own insecurities. I can't manage his emotions for him." That evening, I came home to find Owen helping Eva with her homework at the kitchen table. She was working on a drawing, her tongue poking out in concentration. "What are you drawing, sweetheart?" I asked, dropping my purse and kicking off my heels. "Our family," Eva said without looking up. I glanced at the paper and felt a strange chill. She'd drawn 3 figures, herself in the middle, me on one side, with a big smile and outstretched arms, and Owen on the other side, noticeably smaller and grayer than the rest of us. "Why is Daddy so small?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. Eva shrugged. "He's been quiet lately. Quiet people look smaller." Owen helped her pack up her art supplies without comment, then took her upstairs for her bath. I stared at the drawing, feeling oddly unsettled. When he came back down, I tried to bridge the gap between us. "How was your day?" I asked. "Fine. Yours?" "Good. Great, actually. We're closing the Series B funding next month. Damien thinks we might be looking at acquisition offers by the end of the year." "That's nice." "Owen, can we please talk about what's happening here? This silent treatment is getting ridiculous." He looked at me then, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Not anger, exactly. Something colder. "What would you like to talk about, Legia?" "Us. This weird tension, the way you've been acting since the launch party." "How have I been acting?" "Distant, cold, like you're punishing me for being successful." Owen walked to the kitchen counter and began sorting through a stack of mail with mechanical precision. "I'm not punishing you for anything. I'm just trying to figure out where I fit in your new life." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you've made it pretty clear that your priorities have shifted. I'm trying to respect that." "My priorities haven't shifted. I'm still the same person. I'm just finally getting the recognition I deserve." "Recognition," he repeated. "Is that what you call it?" There was something in his tone that made me defensive. "Yes, that's what I call it. And I'm sorry if that threatens you somehow." Owen stopped sorting mail and looked at me directly. "Legia, I've supported your career for 8 years. I've taken care of Eva when you worked late. I've celebrated every promotion, every success, every achievement. Don't insult my intelligence by pretending this is about your career. Then what is it about? It's about the fact that you kissed another man in front of a room full of people and then posted it online like it was something to be proud of. It was a celebration, a moment of excitement. You're making it into something it wasn't. What was it then? I felt heat rising in my cheeks. It was spontaneous, professional excitement, team bonding. Team bonding. Owen's voice was flat. Is that what you're calling the dinner meetings too? The late nights? The constant texting? How do you know about... I caught myself. About what, Legia? Nothing. There's nothing to know about. Damien and I work together. We're building something important. If you can't understand that, it's not my problem. Owen nodded slowly, then went back to sorting mail. You're right, it's not your problem. Something about his calm acceptance bothered me more than anger would have. I wanted him to fight, to argue, to give me something to push against. Owen, I need you to support me here. This opportunity could change our whole future. Our future, he said quietly. Yes, I can see that. That night, I lay in bed scrolling through social media, reading comments on my latest posts. The validation felt good, necessary even. Owen was already asleep, or pretending to be. In the morning, I found a calendar entry on his phone that he'd left on the counter. Downtown 9:25. When I asked him about it, he said, just some personal business I need to take care of. What kind of personal business? The kind that keeps things in order, he replied, and something about his tone made my stomach clench with an anxiety I couldn't quite name. The family lunch for Owen's birthday was my idea, an attempt to smooth over the growing tension between us. I figured a public setting with family would force us both to act normal, maybe remind us why we'd fallen in love in the first place. I was wrong about that too. We met at Riverside Bistro, Owen's favorite restaurant, on a sunny Saturday afternoon. His mother Yelena was already there when we arrived, along with my mother Elena. Eva ran ahead to hug her grandmothers, while Owen and I followed, maintaining the careful distance that had become our default. You look wonderful, dear, Elena said, kissing my cheek. I saw your interview in TechCrunch. Very impressive. Thanks, Mom. It's been an incredible few months. Yelena hugged Owen tightly, then turned to me with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Legia, how nice to see you. When you're not traveling for work, that is. I haven't been traveling that much, I said, settling into my chair. Oh, I just meant you seem so busy lately. Owen mentioned you've been working very late. I felt Owen's eyes on me but didn't look at him. Success requires sacrifice. I'm sure Owen understands that. Of course, Yelena said smoothly, though I always believed marriage required sacrifice too. The waiter appeared to take our drink orders, giving me a moment to collect myself. I ordered wine, even though it was barely noon. Owen ordered coffee. So, tell us about this big promotion, Elena said once the waiter left. Owen mentioned you're working closely with the CEO now. Damien's been incredible to work with. He really sees my potential in a way that previous bosses haven't. We make a great team. A team, Yelena repeated. How nice. And this involves a lot of evening meetings. I felt my jaw tighten. When you're growing a company, you work when opportunities arise. Damien and I have been developing strategy for our next phase of growth. It's very exciting. I'm sure it is, Yelena said, though I imagine it must be difficult for Owen and Eva, all these late nights. Eva's fine. Owen helps with homework and bedtime. We're both committed to making sure she feels supported. Of course you are. It's just that she mentioned you missed her school play last week. I had missed it. Damien had scheduled a last-minute dinner with potential investors, and I'd chosen to attend that instead. One school play, Yelena. It's not like I'm an absent mother. No one said you were, dear. I'm just observing that priorities can sometimes get confused. Eva looked up from her coloring. Mummy, why don't you and Daddy hold hands anymore? The table went quiet. I forced a laugh. We hold hands, sweetheart. Don't be silly. Not like before. Before, you used to hold hands at dinner, and in the car, and when we watched movies. Now, you sit far apart. Owen reached over and smoothed Eva's hair. Sometimes adults need space to think about things, kiddo. It doesn't mean anything's wrong. But Eva wasn't satisfied. Are you thinking about getting divorced like Emma's parents? Ava, I said sharply, that's not appropriate dinner conversation. She looked hurt, and I immediately felt bad for snapping at her. But the damage was done. Both grandmothers were looking at us with concern, and Owen was staring at his coffee cup like it held the secrets of the universe. Everything's fine, I said firmly. We're just going through a busy period with work. All couples have phases like this. Do they? Yelena asked mildly. I wouldn't know. Owen's father and I were always very careful to prioritize our marriage, even during busy times. I felt my temper flare. Well, not all of us have the luxury of traditional gender roles, Yelena. Some of us have ambitions beyond keeping house. The words hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Yelena's face went pale, and Owen finally looked up from his coffee. That was uncalled for, he said quietly. Was it? I'm tired of being judged for having a career, for being successful, for not fitting into some 1950s ideal of womanhood. No one's judging your career, Elena said carefully. We're just concerned about balance. Balance, I repeated. You want to know about balance? I've spent 8 years balancing Owen's needs, Eva's needs, everyone else's comfort before my own. Now I finally have an opportunity to build something meaningful. And suddenly, I'm the villain. You're not a villain, Owen said, but you're not a victim either. I turned to face him fully. What's that supposed to mean? It means you've made choices, Legia. Own them. Don't pretend you're being persecuted for having a career when we both know this isn't about your career. Then what is it about, Owen? Please enlighten me. He looked at Eva, then at our mothers, then back at me. Not here. No, here. You want to air our business in front of family? Let's air it. Tell them what's really bothering you. Owen's jaw tightened. You know what's bothering me. I know you can't handle me being successful. I know you're threatened by my relationship with Damien. I know you'd rather I stay small and safe and dependent on you. Is that really what you think? It's what I see. Owen nodded slowly, then signaled the waiter for the check. I think we should go. We just got here. Eva, go wash your hands, Owen said gently. We're leaving. As Eva reluctantly headed to the bathroom, Owen stood and pulled out his wallet. I'll take care of lunch. Legia can stay if she wants to continue the conversation. The dismissal stung more than any argument would have. I found myself standing too, grabbing my purse with shaking hands. This is ridiculous, Owen. You're being childish. Maybe, he said, but I'm being childish quietly, at home, instead of humiliating my family in public restaurants. The ride home was silent, except for Eva's chatter about her coloring project. That night, after putting her to bed, I heard the paper shredder running in Owen's study. When I knocked on the door, he didn't answer. I tried the handle, but it was locked. The weeks following the disastrous birthday lunch settled into an eerie calm. Owen stopped commenting on my late nights, stopped asking about my meetings with Damien, stopped engaging in any conversation that wasn't directly related to Eva or household logistics. It should have been a relief. Instead, it felt ominous. He'd started a new routine of meticulous organization that bordered on obsessive. Every evening when I came home, I'd find him sorting through papers, filing documents, updating spreadsheets on his laptop. When I asked what he was working on, he'd say, just keeping things in order, and continue typing. His desktop was locked now, password protected. His phone too. When I mentioned this, he simply said, Everyone deserves privacy, don't you think? The comment felt loaded, but I couldn't argue with the logic. Work, meanwhile, was intoxicating. Damien had started including me in investor calls, strategy sessions, even board meetings. The other executives treated me like an equal now, seeking my input on major decisions. My LinkedIn profile was flooded with connection requests and job offers from competitors. "You're unstoppable," Damien said after a particularly successful presentation to potential buyers. We were at his favorite wine bar downtown, celebrating what could be the beginning of acquisition talks. "I knew from day one you had this in you." "Did you?" I asked, feeling warm from both the wine and the praise. "Absolutely. You were wasted in that project manager role. You think strategically, you understand the big picture. Most people can't see beyond their immediate tasks, but you—" He leaned closer, his hand covering mine on the table. "You see possibilities." I should have moved my hand. I didn't. "I've been thinking," he continued, "when this acquisition goes through, I want you as my co-founder on the next venture. Equal partners this time. Your name on the door." The offer was everything I'd dreamed of and more. "Damien, that's incredible. You deserve it. We work well together, don't we?" "We do." His thumb traced across my knuckles. "Very well." I felt that familiar electric charge, the same one from the rooftop kiss. This time, I didn't pull away when he leaned in. The kiss was softer than before, more intimate. When we broke apart, he smiled. "I've wanted to do that again since the launch party." "Damien, I know, you're married, but marriages end, Legia, and when yours does, I'll be here." I drove home in a daze, my lips still tingling, my mind racing with possibilities I shouldn't have been considering. Owen was in his study when I arrived, door closed, keyboard clicking steadily. Eva was already asleep. I poured myself another glass of wine and scrolled through social media, posting a cryptic message about new beginnings and following your dreams. The likes and comments poured in immediately. My online following had tripled since the viral video. People were invested in my success story, my journey from suburban wife to tech powerhouse. The validation felt like a drug. The next morning, Owen was gone before I woke up. No coffee, no note, no goodbye. It was becoming a pattern. Eva was eating cereal at the kitchen counter, still in her pajamas. "Where's Daddy?" I asked. "He left early. He said he had important things to do before school." I checked his calendar on the family laptop, but it was password protected now too. Everything was locked down, private, separate. That evening, I decided to confront the growing distance between us. I found Owen in his study, surrounded by manila folders and legal-looking documents. "We need to talk," I said. He looked up from his laptop. "About what?" "About this." I gestured around the room. "The secrecy, the locked doors, the way you've been acting." "How have I been acting?" "Like a stranger, like someone planning something." Owen saved his document and closed the laptop. "I am planning something." My heart skipped. "What?" "I'm planning to protect my daughter and myself." "Protect you from what?" "From the consequences of your choices." I felt a chill run down my spine. "What consequences? What are you talking about?" Owen stood and walked to one of his filing cabinets. He pulled out a thick folder and set it on the desk between us. "Do you want to see what I've been working on?" I stared at the folder, afraid to open it. "Owen, you're scaring me." "Good. You should be scared. You should have been scared months ago when you decided to blow up our marriage for a man who sees you as a convenient distraction." "That's not what this is, isn't it?" He opened the folder, revealing printed screenshots of text messages, photos from social media, restaurant receipts, calendar entries. "Because I have evidence that suggests otherwise." My hands shook as I looked through the papers. Messages between Damien and me that I thought were private. Photos of us at various dinners and events. Credit card statements showing charges at expensive restaurants during times when I told Owen I was working late at the office. "You've been spying on me." "I've been documenting the truth. There's a difference." "This is insane, Owen. You're acting like some kind of stalker." "I'm acting like a man whose wife is having an affair." The word hung between us like a blade. I wanted to deny it, but the evidence was right there in black and white. The intimate dinners, the late-night texts, the growing emotional and physical intimacy with Damien. "It's not an affair," I said weakly. "What would you call it?" "It's complicated. Damien and I have a connection, a professional partnership that's become something more. But we haven't. You kissed him, multiple times. You spend more time with him than you do with your own family. You lie about where you are and who you're with. If it's not an affair, it's the next best thing." I felt cornered, defensive. "Even if that were true, what are you planning to do about it? Blackmail me? Threaten me?" Owen closed the folder and put it back in the filing cabinet, which he then locked. "I'm planning to handle this properly, legally, by the book." "What does that mean?" "It means I've consulted with an attorney. It means I understand my rights and Eva's rights. It means when the time comes, I'll be prepared." My blood went cold. "You're talking about divorce." "I'm talking about protecting my daughter from the fallout of your midlife crisis." "This isn't a midlife crisis. This is me finally realizing my potential, finally finding someone who sees my worth." "Your worth," Owen repeated. "And what exactly is your worth to Damien, Legia? What happens when the novelty wears off? When the next ambitious project manager catches his eye?" "You don't understand our relationship." "I understand it perfectly. I just understand it better than you do." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the folder, the evidence, the calm way Owen had delivered what amounted to an ultimatum. When I finally drifted off, I dreamed about locked doors and shredded papers and the sound of keyboards clicking in empty rooms. In the morning, Owen was gone again. But this time, he'd left a calendar appointment visible on the kitchen counter, downtown 1340, final meeting. Something about those words filled me with dread. The investor dinner was supposed to be my coronation. 3 potential buyers, all interested in acquiring our startup for figures that would make me financially independent for life. Damien had positioned me as his co-founder in everything but name. And tonight was meant to seal that partnership permanently. I'd spent hours getting ready, choosing a black dress that was professional but striking, jewelry that caught the light just right. When I walked into the downtown hotel ballroom, I felt like I owned the world. "There she is," Damien said, appearing at my side with champagne, my secret weapon. The evening started perfectly. I charmed the investors with strategic insights and market analysis. They were impressed by my knowledge of the company's growth trajectory, my vision for expansion, my understanding of the competitive landscape. One of them, a silver-haired woman from a major tech conglomerate, actually said I was the kind of executive talent we're always looking for. "Legia's been instrumental in everything we've accomplished," Damien told the table. "I honestly can't imagine doing this without her." His hand found mine under the table, and I didn't pull away. Around us, the conversation flowed about valuations and timelines and integration strategies. I was drunk on possibility, on the vision of a future where I was finally recognized for my true capabilities. "I'd like to propose a toast," Damien said as dinner wound down, "to partnerships that change everything." We all raised our glasses, and I felt a surge of triumph. This was it. This was the moment my real life began. That's when I saw the man in the cheap suit approaching our table. "Legia Vance?" he asked. "Yes?" "You've been served." He placed a manila envelope on the table in front of me, nodded professionally, and walked away. The entire table went quiet, staring at the envelope like it might explode. With shaking hands, I opened it and pulled out the documents inside. The words swam before my eyes. Petition for dissolution of marriage. irreconcilable differences, custody of minor child, division of marital assets. Legia? Damien's voice seemed to come from very far away. What is it? I looked up to see Owen standing near the entrance to the ballroom. He was wearing his best suit, the one from our wedding, and his expression was completely calm. He nodded once in my direction, then turned and walked away. The investors were murmuring among themselves, clearly uncomfortable with the personal drama that had just invaded their business dinner. The silver-haired woman was checking her phone, probably already mentally withdrawing from any deal that involved this kind of instability. I need to go, I stammered, standing so quickly I knocked over my wine glass. The red liquid spread across the white tablecloth like blood. Legia, wait, Damien called, but I was already running. I caught up with Owen in the hotel lobby. He was standing by the elevators, checking his phone with the same methodical calm he brought to grading papers. How could you do this to me? I demanded. In front of investors? In front of my colleagues? You've humiliated me. He looked up from his phone. I've humiliated you. That's interesting. This is vindictive and cruel and legal, Owen interrupted. This is legal, Legia. Everything I've done has been completely above board and by the book. You could have talked to me first. We could have worked this out privately. Could we? When? Between your dinner meetings and late-night strategy sessions and weekend conferences. When exactly would you have been available for that conversation? I felt tears starting, and I hated myself for it. Owen, please. We can fix this. I know I've made mistakes, but we can work through them. Some mistakes can't be worked through. Some choices have permanent consequences. What about Eva? What about our family? Eva will be fine. She'll have stability and consistency and parents who don't lie to her about what's happening in their marriage. I never lied to Eva. You've been lying to everyone, including yourself. Owen pressed the elevator button. The papers are self-explanatory. You have 30 days to respond. My attorney's information is included. Your attorney? Owen, this is insane. We can't afford attorneys. I can afford an attorney. You'll need to figure out your own situation. The elevator arrived and Owen stepped inside. As the doors began to close, I grabbed them. Why now? Why like this? He looked at me with something that might have been pity. Because you forced my hand. Because you made it clear that our marriage was over, and I decided to handle the paperwork myself instead of waiting for you to find the courage to do it. I never said our marriage was over. You didn't have to say it, Legia. You showed it. Every late night, every lie, every time you chose him over us. You ended our marriage months ago. I'm just making it official. The elevator doors closed, and I was left standing in the lobby, divorce papers clutched in my shaking hands, my entire future suddenly uncertain. When I returned to the ballroom, the investors were gone. Damien was settling the check, his face grim. That was unfortunate timing, he said when he saw me. Unfortunate timing, I repeated. Damien, my husband, just served me with divorce papers in front of our biggest potential buyers. I know, it's a mess, but these things happen. We'll recover. We'll recover. What about the deal? What about our partnership? Damien sighed. Legia, you have to understand, this kind of personal drama makes investors nervous. They want stability, predictability. A messy divorce, especially one that plays out publicly. You're dropping me. I'm not dropping you. I'm just saying we might need to reassess the timeline. Let you get your personal situation sorted out before we move forward with any major changes. I stared at him, finally seeing clearly for the first time in months. You're dropping me. Business is business, Legia. Surely you understand that. I did understand. I understood that the man I'd risked my marriage for was already distancing himself now that I came with complications. I understood that my moment of triumph had turned into complete disaster. I understood that Owen had outmaneuvered me completely. And I understood that I was now standing alone in an empty ballroom, holding divorce papers, with nowhere to go but home to face the consequences of my choices. The apartment felt different when I finally made it home that night. Colder, more like a crime scene than a family home. Owen's study door was open for the first time in weeks, revealing empty filing cabinets and a clean desk. He'd removed everything personal, leaving only the furniture that had come with the room. Eva was asleep, but I could hear Owen moving around in our bedroom. When I climbed the stairs, I found him packing a suitcase with the same methodical precision he brought to everything else. "Where are you going?" I asked. "My mother's, for tonight. Tomorrow I'm moving into a furnished apartment across town. The address is in the papers you received." "Owen, we need to talk about this. Really talk, not just legal documents and ultimatums." He continued folding shirts. "What would you like to talk about? About us? About fixing this? About Eva and what's best for her?" "Eva will spend weekdays with me and weekends with you, assuming you can arrange your schedule around her needs. The custody arrangement is all detailed in the petition. You've already decided everything. I've proposed a framework based on what's been working for the past few months. Since you're rarely home before 8 p.m. anyway, this shouldn't be a major adjustment." The calm precision of his words was more devastating than shouting would have been. I know I've been working late, but that was temporary. The company situation, the opportunity with Damien. How did that work out, by the way? The opportunity. I felt my face burn. It's complicated. I imagine it is. Messy divorces tend to complicate workplace relationships. You planned this. You knew exactly what would happen tonight. Owen zipped up his suitcase and turned to face me. "I planned to serve you with divorce papers in a public setting, yes. I thought you deserved the same level of discretion you've shown our marriage." "That's cruel." "Is it? Or is it proportional?" I sank onto the bed we'd shared for 8 years. I know I made mistakes. I know I handled things badly. But this is nuclear, Owen. This destroys everything. Everything was already destroyed, Legia. I'm just cleaning up the debris. What about love? What about the life we built together? What about giving people second chances? Owen sat down in the chair across from me, and for a moment he looked less like an attorney and more like the man I'd married. "Do you love me?" The question caught me off guard. "Of course I love you." "When's the last time you showed it? When's the last time you chose me over him? When's the last time you put our marriage first?" I opened my mouth to answer and realized I couldn't. The past few months were a blur of late nights, secret meetings, and growing distance from everything that used to matter. "That's what I thought," Owen said quietly. "You love the idea of me. You love having a stable home base while you explore other options. But you don't love me enough to fight for us. I'm fighting now. No, you're negotiating. You're trying to minimize the consequences of your choices. That's not the same thing as fighting for a marriage." He stood up and picked up his suitcase. "I'll be back tomorrow afternoon to get the rest of my things. Eva knows I'm staying at Grandma's for a few days while we work some things out. I'd appreciate it if you didn't elaborate on the details until we have a chance to talk to her together." "When will that be?" "When you've had a chance to review the papers and decide how you want to proceed. My attorney's information is included. I'd recommend getting your own representation." "With what money? You know I can't afford an attorney on my salary." "Your salary might be changing soon anyway, given tonight's events. But that's not my problem anymore." The words hit like a physical blow. "Not your problem? Owen, I'm your wife. You're my soon-to-be ex-wife who made her priorities very clear. I'm simply responding accordingly." He headed for the door, then paused. "For what it's worth, Legia, I really did love you. I loved you enough to support your dreams, raise your daughter, and build a life around your happiness. But I loved myself enough not to watch you destroy our family for a man who was never going to choose you over his own interests." "How do you know that?" "Because I know men like Damien, and I know women like you. You think you're special, that you're different, that your connection is unique, but you're just another ambitious employee who got confused about where she stood. After he left, I sat in our empty bedroom and read through the divorce papers with growing horror. Owen had been thorough. He'd documented everything: the late nights, the changed behavior, the financial irregularities, the emotional abandonment of our marriage. He'd included screenshots of my social media posts, copies of restaurant receipts, even a timeline of my relationship with Damien. But more than that, he'd protected himself completely. The custody arrangement favored him because of my work schedule. The financial settlement was minimal because we had few shared assets. Even the apartment lease was in his name, which meant I'd need to find somewhere else to live. He'd outplayed me entirely. The next morning, I called in sick to work and spent the day trying to find an attorney who would take my case. The three I spoke with all said the same thing. Owen's petition was airtight, his documentation was thorough, and his requests were reasonable. Fighting it would be expensive and probably futile. "Your husband did his homework," the last attorney told me. "He's asking for exactly what any judge would likely award him anyway. My advice: accept the terms and move on with your life." When I got to work the next day, there was an email from HR requesting a meeting. I knew before I walked into the conference room what it would be about. "Legia, we need to discuss the incident at the investor dinner," the HR director said. "Several attendees have expressed concern about the disruption. It was a personal matter. It won't happen again. We're also aware of some workplace relationship issues that may have contributed to the situation." My stomach dropped. What kind of issues? The kind that create liability for the company, the kind that make investors nervous about our leadership stability. They offered me a severance package and a positive reference in exchange for my immediate resignation. The alternative was a formal investigation into my relationship with Damien, which would likely result in my termination anyway. I signed the papers. 3 months later, I was living in a studio apartment across town, working as a freelance consultant for a fraction of my previous salary. Eva spent weekdays with Owen in a comfortable 2-bedroom place near her school, and weekends with me in my cramped studio. She adapted to the arrangement better than I did. Damien had moved on to a new strategic partnership with a younger project manager who didn't come with divorce complications. The company was acquired for twice what we'd originally projected, making him wealthy beyond imagination while I watched from the sidelines. Owen never gloated. He never said, "I told you so." He simply moved forward with his life, co-parenting Eva with professional efficiency and treating me with polite indifference. When I tried to apologize, to explain, to ask for another chance, he listened quietly and then changed the subject to Eva's school schedule or her upcoming recital. The viral video that had started everything was still online, still getting occasional views and comments. But now, when I watched it, all I could see was the moment I chose temporary validation over permanent love. The moment I decided that being seen as powerful was more important than being actually loved. Owen had been right about everything. Damien had never intended to leave his wife. The investors had never seen me as more than an accessory to his success. The social media attention had been fleeting and meaningless. I'd traded a real marriage for a fantasy partnership and ended up with nothing but regret. The final irony came 6 months after our divorce was finalized. I ran into Owen at Eva's school play, the one I'd missed for a business dinner that ultimately meant nothing. He was sitting in the front row, recording her performance with the proud smile I remembered from better days. "She's amazing," I said, sitting down beside him. "She is," he agreed without looking at me. "Owen, Don't," he said quietly. "Just watch our daughter. That's why we're here." After the play, Eva ran up to us with flowers and excitement, chattering about her performance. Owen hugged her and told her how proud he was. I did the same, but I could see the difference in how she responded to each of us. With him, she was completely relaxed, secure. With me, She was careful, polite, like she was managing my emotions instead of sharing her joy. As we walked to the parking lot, Owen carrying Eva's costume bag and listening to her recap every moment of the play, I realized that this was my punishment. Not the divorce, not the lost job, not the financial struggle. This was it. Watching the life I'd destroyed continue beautifully without me, knowing that my daughter would grow up seeing her father as the stable parent and me as the one who chose work over family. Owen had called me a 304 the night he served the papers, a woman who prioritized temporary excitement over permanent commitment. At the time, I'd been outraged by the label. Now I understood he'd been exactly right. I'd gotten everything I thought I wanted: independence, recognition, freedom from the constraints of marriage. But I'd lost everything that actually mattered: my husband's respect, my daughter's trust, and the quiet happiness of a life built on love instead of ambition. Owen had won completely, not through cruelty or manipulation, but through patience, preparation, and the simple act of valuing himself enough to walk away from someone who didn't value him. As I drove home to my empty apartment, I finally understood what he'd been trying to tell me all along. Some choices can't be undone, some trust can't be rebuilt, and some consequences last forever. The man I'd called weak and insecure had been strong enough to protect himself and our daughter from the chaos I'd created. He'd been smart enough to document everything, patient enough to wait for the right moment, and wise enough to know that some marriages can't be saved. I'd learned too late that real power isn't about being seen or celebrated or validated by strangers online. Real power is about knowing your worth and refusing to accept less than you deserve. Owen had shown me what that looked like, and I'd been too blind to see it until it was too late.